Is ghosting and dimming ruining JJK Season 2? This episode of Jujutsu Kaisen was about as spectacular as you thought it would be. We finally got our first fight with Gojo in this episode, and it seems as if Geto indeed has some sort of sinister plan ready to be carried out. But what is it? We'll be breaking down that and much more in this episode of Jujutsu Kaisen. If you enjoy content like JJK, AOT, One Piece, and Demon Slayer, then you're in the right place. So get subscribed, as we're just about 500 subs away from the big 70k milestone. Picking up from last week's episode, I love the shots of these cosplayers in this scene and really throughout, like the nurse here and the fantasy-looking girl. Gojo, though being Gojo, walks on top of a bunch of people, and you know there are some thirsty people on Twitter wishing that that was them being stepped on. Gojo here, though, basically decides to just play along with all their plan, probably because he knows he's powerful and he can do it. Though I can't help but feel like this is sort of a bad omen and a mistake. Though I gotta talk about the Mei Mei and Itadori scenes because they're really neat, but they're very weird at the same time. First of all, I love how Ui puts the cloth down for Mei Mei to sit on the gravestone, making Itadori hold her weapon while he does so. I mean, it just reeks of something Mei Mei would do, which, by the way, I do also appreciate how they've been giving Mei Mei more screen time here, especially in this season, though not because I'm the simp. You're a simp. She even tells Ui to not treat Gojo like normal, which then leads to a really strange moment between these two. I think Ui mentions that what she loves isn't family, but work relations treated as family. Is this an incest joke? Are these two incesting together? This has got to be incest, right? It's got to be one. This, though, without a shadow of a doubt, does confirm that Itadori drew the short end of the stick. This pairing is like oil and water. Maybe not for Mei Mei and Ui, but for Itadori, for sure. Though Mei Mei gets a call and they are to head over to Shibuya, so they make their way there. All the while, Gojo arrives in the Tokyo Metro station, confronted by Jogo, Hanami, and the embodiment of all TikTok users rolled into one. They then tell them, Mei Mei featuring Itadori here, that there is a veil around the station, and within it is another veil around the platform level 5B, keeping sorcerers from entering. But there is one detail that makes Itadori's hair rise. There are transfigured humans in the station, reminding us of how evil the enemy's intentions are. So, at the station, she gives Itadori the choice: kill transfigured humans or exercise one powerful curse. And knowing Itadori, she suggests the latter, which leads into a really cool part, honestly. Very small, but I enjoyed it. Mei Mei brings up her phone and she has this Donkey Kong-like simulation of the floors they're going to be traversing. This was a really interesting way to present the mission to the audience without doing it the old way of visualizing it through a character's head. Mappa really did get creative here, so I appreciate that. Though, you can't blame Itadori for this next part because he just wants to know one thing: if Mahito is there, and sadly, Mei Mei's crows couldn't identify him, but there is a chance he is, of course, so they go ahead and split up and head into the station. Itadori promising Mei Mei this time that he won't fail. Almost immediately, Itadori enters to see a horrifying scene below. A cursed corpse is seen feeding on a human's head, completely disturbing. The conversation they have shows how dim this figure's personality is, believing it is clever until Itadori loses it and strikes him down, angry that it is underestimating humans. The strike here is really well animated, honestly, especially when he goes through the wall and we see his silhouette. Though we do get a bit of humor in this when the insect is called a grasshopper by Itadori, which just, I mean, he's clearly shook by this. I also love the voice acting here, it's really funny. And it's revealed that he's actually a locust, which I love how the show then gives us a brief history lesson on locusts, just so it can tell you how horrible these creatures are. I'm not sure how useful this was in the episode. In my opinion, I didn't need to know beyond it being a locust what a locust was and why it was cool that he was a locust, I guess, but you know, to each their own. But in terms of animation, I know a lot of people felt that this was a downgrade because this is not the same animator from season 1. This is the animator from Record of Ragnarok directing this episode. But this fight, to me, honestly, was pretty much done perfectly. I mean, it really takes on a different approach from the last episode with Mechamaru and Mahito. Does it look different? Is it not as fluid as the original season 1? Yeah, obviously, sure, but I don't think this is bad. The fight takes advantage of the metro system, often moving the fight down the system through walls. This makes for a really visually dynamic fight, especially when cursed techniques are used because they pop so well to the very flat colors of the metro. Honestly, yeah, there is some differences here, and it's not as good, but I don't think that means it's worse either. Case in point, when Itadori unleashes a bevy of strikes that you'd see in something like Dragon Ball Z, completely destroying the Locust. Afterwards as well, we see this really awesome imagery of a very Grim Reaper-like silhouette of Itadori with cursed energy seeping from his fists. Though what I found really incredible here is that Itadori showed off a new technique he developed called Cursed Technique Ghosting. Apparently, its main ability is to induce uncontrollable complaining. Joking aside though, there is just nothing we can do about this. Personally, I don't mind it, but with the change in time slots for this show, it's literally mandatory by law, and if you want to see stuff unghosted, we're just gonna have to wait for the Blu-ray release. Sucks to suck, that's just how it is, and some people are going to see ghosting being a huge problem in JJK and that it's going to be bringing this season down. And you just can't escape those complaints. As well, in my opinion, you cannot blame MAPPA for this change. It was out of their hands as Japanese law dictates that they apply ghosting. I mean, what are they gonna do? Release the episode and then get heavy fines and the production gets shut down? Well, then we won't even have JJK to begin with. I don't think so. I don't think they would ever do that. So I think we should be more sympathetic towards MAPPA and not crucify them for something that they themselves cannot help or change. As well, does this ruin this season? No, it's just a minor annoyance in my opinion. It's not like the animation itself is a huge downgrade or horrible, it's literally just ghosting and dimming. It's fine, it's okay. So Itadori going in for the final hit is nearly caught off guard by the Locust but dodges his attack, which I like that it takes from the real world abilities the Locusts have, really nice touch, but it doesn't work as he blocks it, destroying his tail. As you can see, his hand lift from the bug, the blood or whatever it is covering his hand until it all seeps away from it. Very good looking stuff. After this, Mei Mei and Itadori make their way deeper into the metro, which I gotta say, Mei Mei with a giant axe? Well, let's just put it this way. I am not a sip, I swear. But they find a woman sitting down seemingly in a trance, and you just know this isn't going to end well at all, especially as this scene also confirms Mahito is here. Switching over to Gojo, a bunch of roots cover the exit and Jogo releases the humans onto the tracks. All the while we see a scene play out where Geto and Jogo on a playground working out their plan against Gojo. And by the way, this was really hard to say, they all have similar names. I like that the girl directly behind Gojo is pretty much like Android 18 or Bulma or something, and on the right is Lin Lin from One Punch Man, which makes me think about these rumors of MAPPA taking over production for One Punch Man Season 3. Their plan here, though, is basically to surround Gojo with non-sorcerers to hinder him, as Jogo enacts the plan and kills these humans one by one, engulfing them in flames. And man, I gotta give prop to the villains to go through with such a multifaceted plan and generally be able to pull it off here. This is telling the audience that these guys are not just dumb villains, they're smart and cunning and shouldn't be underestimated. This was something I never expected the series to do, and is absolutely some grimdark stuff, but I will say, the animation for Jogo here is insanely fluid and unlike anything I think we've seen in Season 2 thus far. Hanami and Jogo then attack Gojo, while it's explained they did all of this so that Gojo wouldn't be able to use his most powerful techniques in red and blue, so they use domain amplification on Gojo. But it still doesn't work as Gojo just teleports out of the way, thwarting their plans and sporting his massive penis. Gojo faces a perilous predicament encircled by a swarm of trapped civilians. His focus is divided between battling 3 formidable foes and ensuring the safety of these innocent bystanders. His potent curse technique and signature domain expansion are rendered impractical due to the risk they pose to the nearby civilians, making it impossible for him to use them effectively. Furthermore, his adversaries employ domain amplification, a disruptive technique reminiscent of Toji's weapon, nullifying Gojo's curse techniques and enabling them to strike him even with his protective infinity. And despite Gojo's dire situation, his fellow sorcerers are unable to come to his aid as their involvement would only increase the risk, leaving Gojo to confront this 3 while safeguarding the civilians in this really insane battlefield. Also, the scene where Jogo puts his hand through a man and catches us on fire, well, once again, it just looks beautiful, but at the same time, it's insanely grim. So Gojo pulls down his blindfold, revealing his hot blue eyes, testing his patience, and then, well, the episode ends. This episode's animation was pretty solid, though I think this episode clearly had lower priority compared to what we will be getting in episodes to come. There wasn't anything too crazy, and I'm pretty sure the stuff with Itadori and Mei is either anime original, or at the least it was presented out of order, which I think actually is the case. But what I liked most about this episode was the fights with Itadori and basically the entire scene in the metro. While sorta hard to watch for how grim it is and how disturbing, at the same time it was impossible to look away because Mappa's animation was so on point here. Though I gotta say, they added a lot of nice references with the costumes in these episodes. It's a great way to get social media engagements up, as many people will be posting what these costumes are in reference to and getting a bunch of retweets. Overall though, I thought this episode was very solid despite some pretty killer and insane animation, and also some ghosting and direction changes from previous season that people really aren't liking. But let me hear your thoughts down below. What do you guys think about this episode of Jujutsu Kaisen? From the animation to the fights, plot, and who do you think this new character is? Let me hear you in the comments below. And if you like what I do here, then financially back the channel by becoming a patron. There you'll gain access to my massive One Piece arc reviews. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.